Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the episode 4 of season 1 of Professional Development Series organized by the Southern Regional Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. I shall be your host for this webinar today. My name is Usama Rashid. I am a fellow member of the Institute and currently I'm also CEO of two technology companies, DTF Solutions, a company in Pakistan, and an international venture, MaxCon Consulting. The Southern Regional Committee has launched this insightful program of having this professional development series, which involves interviewing industry experts on various areas, including finance, business, leadership, IT, career, education, technology, and all these topics. Talking about today's webinar, the role of the finance function is changing dramatically because of the emerging technologies, rapid adoption of other sorts of technologies and competitive solutions that are coming into the market. And this has basically given rise to thoughts about how the finance function should adapt and evolve in future. So this webinar has been organized by the Southern Regional Committee to talk about the emerging role of the finance professionals. The participants, the attendees, they can send questions, and we will be taking few questions depending on the availability of the time. Let's move forward, and let me first introduce the speakers and the worthy panelists for this webinar. So we are very lucky and fortunate to have with us the renowned global CFO, coach and trainer, Mr. Saleem Sufi, founder of MECA CFO Academy. And he has been a global strategic CFO for more than 20 years. And he has been working for world-class Fortune 500 companies and top private equity-owned companies in various regions of the globe. Mr. Sufi is an MBA in strategy and finance, and he's also a fellow member of the Institute of Cost and Management Accountants. And he has attended various courses at Harvard Business related to executive education. Let me also introduce our panelists as well. So our first panelist for this webinar today is Mr. Ahsan. He has 15 years of experience working at C-level roles in manufacturing sector and power industry in Pakistan. He is currently Chief Operating Officer at Power Cement Limited, which is the second largest cement facility in Sindh and Balochistan, and also a board member at Safe Mix Limited, which is a listed company. Previously, he has also worked as head of strategy and commercial at K Electric. Our second panelist is Mr. Mustafa Kamal, who qualified in the year 2007 from Ernst & Young. And Mustafa has over 13 years of experience of finance business partnering. And he has pioneered a lot of transformation projects in K Electric. He's currently serving as Director of Finance and Business Administration. And he is also leading the finance trainee program at KE. He's a certified director, trainer, and coach as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Saleem Sufi, Mr. Ahsan, and Mr. Mustafa Kamal for joining for this webinar. Let us commence this webinar, and I will now hand over to Mr. Saleem Sufi for giving us a presentation over the future of finance. So over to you, Mr. Saleem Sufi.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Saleem Sufi. My pleasure to really have the opportunity to talk to all the members of the ICAP. And I'm sure that many of you might have heard me in other platforms as well. So let me try to open my slides here so I could talk with some structure and meaningful contents. So we are talking about the future of finance. And this is the time, it's quite overwhelming for many people, the way the changes are taking place in this world. And of course, we are going to focus mainly on our profession and our careers, that what changes are happening and what we could do to prepare ourselves for this future. So 2020, there was a lot of talk about 2020 before 2020. And I think first I heard about this term That was early 90s when Mahathir Mohamad announced his Vision 2020 for Malaysia. That was 91, 92. And since then, every other organization, government, they are all talking about the Vision 2020. And they were all expecting that the world would change in 2020. And the world did change in 2020, but not the way we expected it, right? And we are still recovering from the crisis everybody faced in this 2020 and so far part of 21. Look at few numbers. So 3.54 million deaths. I mean, that's something extremely unusual, and maybe history would always remember 2020 with the crisis, and especially those who were affected by it in terms of their family members or friends and loved ones. And still it's not fully recovered. 167 million people were affected, and even today many countries are struggling. So that's one aspect which really triggered all the changes in this world which are happening. Of course, the triggering effect was the economies in most of the countries. And as you can see in this slide, a lot of people are affected. A lot of people are unemployed. Many of them are partially unemployed. And this slide is from the International Labour Organization in terms of the number of hours. So 195 million people are working lesser hours than before. So that's also a major disaster in terms of the economy or well-being of the country. At the same time, this is very unusual. At the same time, stock markets are doing very well. In fact, in some stock markets, mainly in USA, they are breaking records. So Dow Jones reaching to 34,500 is extremely unusual. Now, if you remember the 2008-2009 crisis, which was not long ago, many of you would remember, the stock markets were crashed almost. And at that time, I remember the Dow Jones were 5,500 actually. So from that level, and everybody was expecting that even this time, it is a bigger crisis than 2009, 2010, and markets would be affected, but markets were not affected. That was the new phenomena we observed in this world, that the markets are still doing very well. If you look at some of the technology giants, the top five tech giants, their valuation is going crazy. I mean, $1 trillion valuation, who thought of it in these times? And their total combined value of these five tech giants is now close to 7.5 to $8 trillion. Trillion, not billion dollars. Think of this. Just to give you some context, the Japan's economy, total economy for a country like Japan, is 4.5 trillion. And these companies are 7 to 8 trillion dollars. So it's enormous valuation. And I don't think there is any valuation model which could really justify those values. So welcome to the world of VUCA. And I'm sure you might have heard this term. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That is what we are living in right now. And it's not going to go away. It's not temporary. This is going to remain a phenomena for uncertain period of time. This is the world where people like Elon Musk, one tweet from Elon Musk could change the billions of dollars in the valuation of the stocks. That is the world we are talking about. So the dilemma for us, for accountants, for finance professional, is that the way we are trained, we don't like these things. In fact, accounting profession is built upon objectivity, materiality, tangibility, historical cost, verification. So although these are the ingredients of the accounting principles on which the whole accounting topic is built upon, but the way we are trained for it, when you spend 3 to 5 years learning for clearing a certification and then you start doing practice as an accountant, we change our approach in the real world, and we really think like objectivity, verification, materiality. The world is very different today. As I said, there is a lot of subjectivity, there is a lot of intangibility. Future is uncertain. We outright reject future in the name of uncertainty, because uncertain, we don't care. Well, look, today's business model is all about uncertainty. The $1 trillion valuations for these companies is not based on historical performance. It's all about future, and nobody knows future. So uncertainty of the future has become an advantage for them to really have high valuation. That's a dilemma we are facing as accountants, especially the way we are trained. So first question, I'm going to raise a couple of critical, crucial questions here. First question is, are we still relevant? Is accounting profession still relevant with the changing world right now? And I'll substantiate with more information and more comments and more thoughts on it. So a very natural consequences of this pandemic, which is basically occurred in, is still happening, is the global recession in terms of the economies. And at the same time, one good thing is happened, that businesses have learned a lot. So the reason stock markets did not crash this time compared to 2009, 2010, because businesses learned a lot. Businesses learn very quickly. So businesses learn how to cope with the change, how to cope with the crisis, and they immediately took action. So one of the action was that technology was abundantly available, and it's cheaply available. I would say it's not that expensive. So most businesses jumped on automating their business processes. And there is a report from Gartner which says that the rate of adoption accelerated by 5 times this time. So that was another reason, not only the recession, but also the reason that many people jobs become surplus because it was taken care by automation. So automation and global recession combined, of course, as a basic trigger from the COVID-19, that more and more people losing jobs and is still losing, and this is expected to continue for a few years. So that is what we are facing here. These few numbers I'm going to share with you, these are from the World Economic Forum. They have been issuing future of job reports for the last several years. I think first was 2016, then 2018. The latest one was 2020. These numbers are from that report issued in September 2020 last year. And that report says that 85 million people are going to lose their jobs. That's a bad news. The good news is that technology, now we have started to understand, is not going to completely eliminate those jobs, but 97 new opportunities would be created. So big picture, there is a net gain of 12 million jobs, which is the good news. But there is more to understand, because these jobs which are being eliminated or lost are very different than the jobs being created, which means that average worker, on the average, one in two workers have to reskill themselves. They need to learn new things. And every worker has to 40% of their skills they have to update. So times have gone where you would do one certification like chartered accountancy or CPA or MBA, and you will say that I'm good for the rest of my career. That has gone. We are living in a VUCA world, and one of the consequences of VUCA world is that we need to continuously learn and unlearn. 6% of the workforce, now this is with the reference to 2025 benchmark. So all the numbers, what they foresee in 2025. So they expect that 6% of the total workforce would be displaced by 2025. And already, as you can see, people are being displaced. They need 70, the way the transformation taking place, they need at least 70% of their workforce to be ready and prepared for it. It's a massive job, massive task for them to reskill and upskill their workforce. So this slide you are looking, this is also from that future of job reports with more information. And you can see 85 million jobs being eliminated and 97 being created. Look at the nature of the jobs. And you will notice a trend and pattern over there. Jobs which are being eliminated are mostly manual, repetitive, process oriented. And the jobs being created are more like technological jobs. And what is of our interest, the item number 3 and 4 in the decreasing job category, accountants and auditors and bookkeepers, that category is consistently showing up since 2016 in their reports. So in 2016, it was there in the top 10 declining jobs. 2018 was there, 2020 was there. And now we are also seeing there more and more challenges are being faced by the accounting and finance professionals. So the good thing is that during these last few years, there was a lot of fear about the automation and technology, that as if robots will really replace our jobs or any jobs, and it would all be robots working around. That has changed. We have learned a lot about that. And one thing is clear, that the human beings are still needed along with robots, but in a different way, different with a different requirement. So let's try to understand what is the contribution of robots and human being. Robots or machines or computers or whatever you call it, they have only three basic fundamental capabilities or competencies: speed, accuracy, memory. Speed, accuracy, memory, that's all. In any form of technology, these are the three skills. And we cannot beat computers on these. We cannot beat machines or robots in speed, accuracy, or memory. So then let's accept that. All the jobs being eliminated are basically related to these three skills, because robots could do a much better job at cheaper cost or price than us. Of course, it's much economical and wise and logical to use robots for that purpose. So that is there. That's one side of the story. If you look at the other side, what human being could bring to the table is basically higher cognitive skills, social and emotional skills, complex problem solving, emotional intelligence, dealing with people, interacting with people, communication. These things, I'm not sure if any robot has been invented so far which could do the emotional intelligence, right? So that's the good news. Good news is that yes, we have computers, machines, robots at our disposal, but we also have to bring something else to the table to make it really work in a win-win scenario. So that's a new thing which is really understood by majority of the people, and that is what we are focusing upon. So this is the list of the top 10 skills from the same report, Future of Job Reports. And again, look at the nature of the skills. Most of the skills we are very familiar, like analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, etc., etc. And I tried to classify those skills into some categories. So same 10 skills, look at this slide. And in this slide, you can see cognitive skills. As I said earlier, that these are the crucial and critical skills from the human side. So these skills are analytical thinking, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and reasoning, problem solving, etc. Active learning. Uh, this has under the category, yeah, self-management, self-control, self-management, active learning, and resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility. Social skills, leadership, and social influence. And only two skills in this list can fit into the technology skills, like technology use, monitoring, and control, and technology design and programming, right? So this should be pretty straightforward for people like us to really see that what skills are required and what skills I could learn to prepare ourselves for the future, right? But that's not the case. Most of the people, when they look at this list, it's a trap actually. They look at the list and they say, analytical thinking, no problem. I have been doing it all of my life. Complex problem solving, I have been solving my problems. Critical thinking, because they look simple. These skills look simple. So they feel that as if it's not a problem. I'm intelligent enough to really perform these things. The point here is that yes, you do have some knowledge and skills about it, but in order to work with the computers in that equation, you need mastery level in these skills. So you still have to learn a lot. So keep that thought with you for a while. This is another slide or few numbers from McKinsey research. And this basically shows, these are the global numbers. This shows the change in the nature of a skill which is happening. So if you look at the category, these are the physical and manual skills, so which means manual jobs. Then basic cognitive. Basic cognitive is like sales representative or service representative, simple jobs, but you still need the use of your brain. Higher cognitive, that is what we are talking about, and social emotional. So look at the change. Physical and manual jobs skills are going to, this is from 2016 to 2030, they are going to reduce by 27%. Basic cognitive is going to reduce by 12 to 10%. So people who are involved in this category are going to lose their jobs or less use of them. Look at the higher cognitive. It's going to increase by 24%. Social emotional is going to increase by 33%. And then technology skills are going to increase by 58%. So it's very clear based on this research that there is more requirement and demand for higher cognitive skills, social emotional, and technological skills. So the problem is that the people who are going to lose their jobs, they are currently involved in physical and manual and basic cognitive skills. And they need to shift to these higher cognitive, social, emotional, and technological skills, which is possible, but not easy. So the second question is, do we have the right skills? Are we ready for the future? Because it's coming very clearly. I think Today in 2021, it's very clear what is required. And the disappointing part or frustrating part is when you look at the people, look at the professionals actually, to be more specific, you don't see many people are doing much. We are smart people. We are very smart, very intelligent to understand all this. I'm sure all of you are agreeing with me, the change which is taking place, right? But when it comes to the action, there are not many people you see who are really taking action or preparing themselves for the future. So that's a very concerning part from a profession point of view. This is another slide from Gartner. So work is changing or evolving fast. So the nature of the talent available, like gig economy, is growing very fast. IT skills are needed in a different form, and technology is really impacting. So these few drivers, when you combine them, it's resulting in a mega trend or mega change in the ways we work in the work environment. This is also from McKinsey, and these are some mega trends which are happening. So if you look at the left side of the slide, flatter organization. So this is a glimpse of the future organization. Flatter organization, faster information flows. We are talking about real-time closing, virtual closing, cross-functional teams, less functional and departmental boundaries, flexible ways of working, dynamic allocation of talent is deployed. So which means the talent is not limited to one function or department. If there's a talent pool available in the organization, they are going to use that talent anywhere they are required, because talent, that level of talent would be very limited. So they are going to make full use of those talent available, agile, resilient talent. And what what is the outcome of those changes is faster speed to market. That's very important. The businesses have changed their focus significantly to customers, because customers really the driver for the success of the business. So by the way, we finance people are not much involved. Generally speaking, there are definitely exceptions, but generally we don't get much involved with the customers. Like customer value is intangible. So that goes back to our fundamental training, that we are focused on tangible things, tangibility. The things which are intangible, like customer value, we have difficulty to really understand that how could we support our business. Shareholders value is good, is okay, because that's tangible. That's about all money or shareholders wealth. So we are very happy, we are very comfortable there. But when it comes to the customer's value, we struggle. So other outcome, increased customer responsiveness, greater efficiency, and significant performance orientation and employee performance. So again, these are just the glimpses to understand what could be the future model 2 years, 5 years from now, and whether we really fit in that model or not. This is from Deloitte. And what is very clear now, so it's not, I think everybody understand that few technologies which are more relevant to finance and accounting functions are basically our toolkit now. Cloud computing is changing the world, how we compute things, how we do the computers. Visualization is getting very popular. I think more and more professionals are learning those skills. Robotics, RPA, that is the main thing or main driver which is going to change the economic activity or the processes, the way we do it. Blockchain, in my personal opinion, blockchain has the potential to replace our traditional financial ledger, and that would be significant breakthrough the way we do accounting or business accounting. Advanced analytics, that's what we are going to talk a little bit more details today, that how the data science is going to impact our jobs or the support, the way we support our businesses. Cognitive computing, again, what we mentioned earlier, in-memory computing. So these are the technological tools available to us. They're already available, by the way. It's not that they are not available to us, but we, so far, generally speaking, we have not been able to really make use of them to the level where we should. So that's, again, food of thought, that why are we not using these tools as much as we should? And that goes back to the second question I raised, that do we have the right skills in today's time? These are the same source from Deloitte. These are the change, the way they see finance department or finance function by 2025. So role of finance, that's major one. Role of finance is assuming that by 2025, most of the accounting or finance functions are able to make use of the technology, which means that their accounting process mainly is automated. accounting process, all these jobs of the chief accountant, accounting managers, the AP, AR administrators, assuming that by 2025 they are all automated. Then what are we going to do? Focus of finance is going to change from the front end of the business. This was the back end activity, back end process for accounting. This is being taken care by automation. Of course, there is some human involvement, but very minimal. So we are now available in a major way to support the business at the front end. That's a big change, big shift in the accounting finance focus from back end to the front end. Self-service. So with the technology, with the automation, I think the business partners, the user, they don't need us anymore. The way they really ask for reports today. So some reports are available and they have to just press the button and the reports will be available. So it's a self-service, which again, we may not be comfortable, but they don't need controllers to press the button if that is technology is available. Data is a big thing. Data is really something which is going to make a big change. And data is also creating confusion among the accountants community that how are we going to use that data? And data is a big, big opportunity for the business. Enterprise resource planning is also changing, but incidentally, in ERP area, there are other giant companies involved like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and they are making necessary changes based on the technology. So the companies who have procured their business systems or ERP systems, they will continue to work with them. Operating models is going to change based on the supply of talent. So as I said that from a finance and accounting point of view, first of all, they don't need all the people they have today, right? Or yesterday. They need less people, but less people with more competency, more capability. Rather than having a lot of people with low skills, they need few people with high skills. That's a major shift going to take place. And based on that requirement and demand, they could go anywhere where the talent is available. So they could hire the consultant, they could hire the freelancers, they could go and fetch the highly talented people already serving other companies. And at the same time, now this is already happening, and I call it blue ocean of job market and red ocean of job market. Generally speaking, people or professionals who are losing jobs, and they are losing jobs because they don't have the talent and skills. Now, again, I think all of you understand that when it comes to the reduction of human workforce, there are legal things companies have to take care. So usually it's elimination of positions or reduction of business, whatever they call it. Behind the scene, the one factor which really works, no employer, no business would let a talented employee go, even if that position is eliminated. They would like to keep those talents, right? So on the surface, it looks like there are some legal reasons, but on the back end, it's about all the talent, right? So generally speaking, for majority of cases of where people lose jobs is because that probably they don't have that level of talent and skills which is required by the employer. So they lose jobs. Now, what those people do, they immediately get back into the job market and start to reapply. That's a red ocean. Now, there are already thousands, if not millions of people already seeking jobs. And they come back in that red ocean and start to do the same things. And after some time, they started to get frustrated because things are not working. Now, I hope you know it. If you don't know it, then trust me, there are always a lot of positions available. Even today in this tough job market, there are a lot of positions available. And I see in my circle and other places that people are being hired very lucratively. And the reason is that employers are selectively going for that talent. So the right way should be for these professionals who are losing jobs to first go take some time out and re-skill themselves, upskill themselves, develop the talent as required by the employers, and then re-offer, go to the blue ocean market, not the red ocean. And then their chances of success would be higher. So that talent, the way the companies hire talent is going to change significantly. Workforce and workplace, number 6, we talked about it. Finance cycles. So there is no periodic closing going forward. It's going to be virtual or real-time close. And then finally, finance factory. They call finance factory term for the processes which are automated, which are repetitive, mainly the accounting activities and transactions. So again, this slide or the 8 factors listed by Deloitte gives you a glimpse of the future finance organization. So you could see that where you are and how would you fit into that model of the finance organization in future. This one chart is, I think this is from Accenture, but this explains also that how the things are changing. There's a little detail, so I'm not going into the details, but I'll explain you very briefly so you could understand. What you see on the top of the slide, these are basically the accounting process, right? Planning, transacting, accounting, controlling, complying, reporting, etc. And the circle around each step or each stage is either purple or light blue, sky blue, right? Now, sky blue represents the automated part, and purple shows the manual part. So, where we are today, if you look at these steps, look at the transactions, accounting, control, compliance, reporting. The blue, sky blue color is much larger, which means the steps or stages have already been significantly automated. Planning, there is still room for human involvement, and especially if you go to last two steps, analyze and advise, major chunk is manual, because that is where you need your talent, that is where you need your critical thinking, problem solving, and support your business partners, right? So these numbers are based on the Extent research, and I think it's very reliable. So you could see that where is the room if you still want to get involved in the accounting process in future. Where is the room? Not in the middle of this process, some at the beginning, but mostly towards the front end of the business when you have to provide advice. Or in other words, the role of finance business partner is very, very promising going forward. So this is from EY. So I used all Big Four a lot because their research is very latest and very reliable, and it makes sense for us to really understand from their point of view. So a typical finance organization looks like this today. So on the top, there is CFO. Then there are business partners or finance business partners. Again, there are different names, by the way. Management controllers or business unit accountant or business unit controller, they all fit into this business partners category. Then there is center of excellence. You can put treasury people into it, merger and acquisition, taxation people. And at the bottom, you see finance factories. Now, in a manual environment, there would be a lot of people working there. In a future automated environment, there would be machines working or some people supervising that process. So keep that in mind. Technologies, mainly artificial intelligence, cloud, analytics, and robotics are going to flip that model. So look at, and this slide is from PwC. So they are at the same level of understanding or thought that what you see on the left side, this pyramid, it looks like a typical finance focus that yes, we are spending a lot of time on the transaction processing, some on the reporting and compliance, very little on the insight and action, decision support, very little on the left side. When we get involved, the technologies, artificial intelligence, cloud analytics, robotics is turned upside down. Now we have very little to spend on transaction processing, somewhere more or less the same in reporting and compliance, but we are spending a lot more time on the insight and actions, decision support. That is what the focus is. So when this model is turned upside down, it changes the scenario for many of us who are already working in this model. Now, the dilemma is that if you look around, you will find many people in our profession in different levels, in industry, in professional firms, at the organization or accounting bodies where people have the powerful positions. There are still many, many people who do not believe in this change. They still think or do not agree that change is coming that fast. Now, they may still agree with the change, but they may not agree with the timing. They say, no, it's not going to happen. I've seen in the last 20 years, nothing changed. Yeah, you're right. You have not seen that change in the last 20 years. But look around all the things, what is happening. And this is the time. This is the time things are changing. So if you find yourself into that category, my request is take a fresh mindset approach and try to relook, just offload the legacy and start to take a deeper look with a fresh perspective. So the major question I think most of the professionals are struggling to answer, that who am I? If I'm an accountant, what do I do? What is my role going forward in the organization? Because it looks like based on all this information available, that doesn't look like there are very clear and well-defined role for accountants. Now, we have been very important so far, but going forward, and especially in the perspective of data science. So keep this question in your mind, and let me share more of my thoughts. Now, if you look back, I think last 10 or maybe 20 years, there has been one similar question comes again and again. Role of CFO, emerging role of CFO or finance, changing role of finance or CFO, emerging role of finance and CFO. And this question does not come for other roles, but for finances, continuously coming time and again for the last, as I said, 10, 15, 20 years. And the reason is that we have not been able to define that role yet. Even today, if you ask 5 CFOs this question, what is the role of CFO or finance? Answer would be quite different from them, right? And based on my research, I could say that I also have not been able to find a very clear answer, because yes, role is changing, but even with the changing scenario, we have not been able to well define it. So I try to take some inspiration from the well-researched organization. And I'm a big propagand, by the way, advocate rather, of that the focus of finance and CFOs should be value creation. That's the concept we need to digest. This slide from Gartner, they're trying to explain a business model. And if you focus on the finance box and see the commentary outside it, it says finance is a system for capturing value and turning excess value into profit and funding that can be reinvested into the business. So again, let's agree for a short while here, if you don't have that thought, that focus of finance or focus of CFO is value creation, right? And value creation, which means that measuring value creation, capturing value creation, trying to avoid leakage of value creation, and monitoring value creation, trying to help the business maximizing the value creation. That should be the focus. Of course, this is a very broad concept, right? And under that broad concept, we do a lot of things. This has been there, by the way. This is not new. I think for in the modern history, since the turn of the century, that has been or should have been a focus of finance and CFOs, supporting the value creation in their business models. And we have been doing it. So this is a analytics continuum, which means that if you start from the left bottom, you will see that there are 4 levels of analytics actually progressing. Descriptive analytics, this is all about historical performance analysis. Then diagnostic analysis, more detailed reporting analysis. Predictive and prescriptive, these are new. And you could basically divide this continuum into 2 portions. One is the descriptive and diagnostic, and the other is predictive and prescriptive. Now, we means accountants or finance department, we have been doing a pretty good job on the descriptive and diagnostic analysis, and business data warehouses and BIs and all those intelligence tools. We use that to provide meaningful information for the business. Now that the big data is becoming available and data science has become available, I would say that for most of us, that's out of our comfort zone. So now we are talking, or the world is talking about data scientists, that look, finance probably cannot handle predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. So let's find out the data scientists who will take care of that, right? I'm not saying this is a rule, but for majority of the people think like that, oh, if I'm a financial controller, data science is probably not for me, or it requires a completely different approach. So that's generally speaking, that's a mindset. So keep that picture in your mind. And let me share more thought. So many organizations, this is already happening, that in their business model, finance has been focused on descriptive and diagnostic analysis, and they're still doing it. When it comes to the prescriptive and predictive analytics, they are developing different systems. Different systems means they are creating a team of data managers or data scientists, and they are not integral part of finance and accounting. Now, again, let me correct it. In some modern organization, where CFOs are very aggressive or advanced or up to date or technology oriented, they are leading this process of predictive and prescriptive analytics. They are hiring data scientists and they are integrating that function with the finance and accounting functions. Only in the organization where there is very good very modern or very powerful CFOs with the technology orientation. In most organizations, I would say CFOs are not taking enough initiative on these things. So business need that information. So somehow IT department or the CEOs or the marketing or the department taking initiative and trying to set up the resource pool who could help them in the predictive and prescriptive analytics. What may happen in the due course of time, if this continues, you will see some organization where data science is part of the finance and accounting, and you will see in some organization data science is an independent function. So that is very much possible. Let's take another broader look on this situation. So this is really critical. This is actually a battleground currently between data science, technology, finance, and accounting. So these four types of analytics, businesses are very eager. CEOs, business partners are very eager to have data utilized to create information about predictive and prescriptive analytics. Now, business partners or they don't care where it comes from. If it comes from finance and accounting or data science or somewhere else, they don't care about that. They need that information as fast as possible with good quality, right? So in the organization where CFOs are not that ambitious or initiative and other departments are working, CEO doesn't mind to have that information as long as someone is working on it, right? Similarly, those organizations where CFO then finance is taking a lead, CEO doesn't mind. They need just the information, right? This is going to decide, this battleground going to decide that whether finance is able to integrate data science into its function or data science comes itself as an independent function. Let's try to understand a little bit in detail what data science is or how we could create the prescriptive and predictive information or analytics. So this chart shows the three areas or three dimension of this. So of course, when you look at the left side, the yellow circle, that's a technical side. That's a data science, typical data scientist. So data quality, data architect, data managers, data processing, data procurement, data cleansing, all these things are here. What you see in the right side in the green circle, that's analytics. This involves data visualization, model developers, etc. What you see in the top is basically business part, the pink or red circle. Now, so these three domains and three dimensions have to work together to create this information of predictive and prescriptive analytics. Now, where is the finance? The finance is there. Finance is not completely isolated. What you see in between the analytics and change manager, you see a business partner. That's the finance business partner, or that's the role of the finance. Data scientist, you see in between the analytics and the technicality. And so no one role could do it alone. Now, this is evolving. This is not a definite model already settled down. Data science or data scientist role is evolving rapidly. And as I said, depending upon the culture of the organization, depending upon the internal dynamics of the organization, it may shape different roles. Data scientists may dominate this procurement of the information, or analytics may dominate, or finance may dominate differently. So question for finance is, or for you is, where do you see yourself in this cluster? Are you more on the business side? Are you more on the analytics side? Or are you more on the data scientist side? Now, you could be anywhere. As a finance professional, you could be anywhere. But there are different dynamics which will decide that. So let me show you a little bit more on this. So when people see this picture, finance professionals especially, what data science is, as I said, this is not clarified yet. This is evolving. So you would find a lot of different type of versions and information available. When a finance professional look at this type of information, the mathematics and statistics, of course, most of us or majority of us are not trained in mathematics or statistics. Computer science, very different. This is not for me. They only feel comfortable with business domain knowledge. Even that, most of us are not really proficient in that part. So that really scares the finance professional, that this is as if this is something else. This is not for us. Now, I'm continuing with the same idea and concept to clarify this role. So this is another slide showing the different roles in this dynamic scenario of prescriptive and predictive analytics. So look at these roles. There are four roles, actually two dimensions: commercial and technical on the vertical side, and conformance and performance. Now, technical commercial, I think you understand. Technical is more like data science, data technicalities, analytics. Commercial is more business side, business orientation. Performance is related to the performance management. Conformance is related to the conformance or quality or integrity of the data, right? So the role, if you look from the bottom right, data analytics, that's the data scientist, is technical side and the performance side. Work with the business partners to drive the business. Data management on the lower left side is technical role purely. What you see on the upper right side, value creation, that's business partner. That's finance and accounting role. So it complies what I said earlier, that the focus is value creation. So with the value creation focus, business partner or finance business partners is involved in this thing of working with the data scientists or other technical people. And data culture is basically the top management or the chief data officer or someone who is driving the culture of the organization. That again shows. Now realize that none of this picture or model I have shown you is definite. They are all transitory in perception based on what people know, and they are not matching with each other. But that gives you enough idea where we are in this field and what is the room or flexibility available for us to find out our role and prepare ourselves for that role. Now, this looks very noisy slide, so I'm not going to go into detail, but this is also from Gartner. What Gartner is showing, Gartner is saying that, look, in these, again, three circles, data science, IT skills, and business skills, there is a lot of hodgepodge. There is a lot of politics based on the culture of the organization or availability of the talent. So that is where we are today. Nothing is definite, nothing is finalized. That is where we are. There is data science, there is analytics, there is IT skills, and there is business skills. Now, one thing I would like to emphasize here, if you ask me what is the most important crucial dimension or core skill of this equation, is business skills. Without business skills or business domain knowledge, there is no data science. It would only be a commodity skill that you know the technicalities, but asking the right questions, finding the right answers, understanding from a business perspective and point of view, most important thing. And this role could only be done by finance people in this equation. If you have three type of talents available: data science, analytics, technical, and business finance partner. Finance business partner is the one who could do the best job. Now, again, I'm just making it qualified that not all finance professionals are really very proficient in business domain knowledge, but they could develop themselves into that. So that becomes a very critical and crucial role to play in this equation. So here is my conclusion. Without data science, there is no future of finance. Because in that scenario, where data science is working outside finance and accounting, we are left with nothing. What are you going to do? Because typical accounting process is being done by the automation. Business are, even if you continue with those historical reporting, that's not much relevant for the top management. They are very eager for the future-oriented prescriptive and predictive analytics. That would only be limited to the regulatory purposes. So current scenario is this, that there is a finance organization. Finance is working with the business teams, business partners, CEOs, marketing, sales, whatever. And at the same time, data science inside or outside finance, but it's not an integral part. That's very clear. In any organization, we don't see, except for a few exceptions, we don't see data science as an integral part of the finance and accounting. So they are interacting definitely. And it's so far, it's like me too approach that, look, I need to involve. If data science is working on it, I'm a finance person, I need to get involved into it. Please involve me. This must change into this picture. So in this picture, you see the second layer from the bottom, this data scientist. So future organization should look like this, that you have the finance leadership team, finance business partners, and at the bottom, there are business data analysts and data scientists, which are part of the finance organization. I'm not saying that they are reporting to finance business partners. I'm only saying that they must be part of an integral finance and accounting organization. So you could continue to do your job focusing on value creation and supporting the organization, because that would fit into the value creation process as we have been doing. So without data science, no finance. There are three scenarios possible. Data science becomes an independent function based on what is happening today, or data science integrates with technology or some other function, depending upon the culture of the organization, or data science integrates with the finance function. I think that is what we need to target on. Clarifying in our mind is very important. Every future thing happen with an idea in your mind. I think the major problem we are trying to address here from the finance function or finance profession point of view, we are even not clear ourselves. What do we want? How do we see our roles in the future? So that's the first step. We need to be very clear that there is no future of finance without data science. And if that is the case, it all depends upon storytelling capability. As I said, finance people are best suited, best developed to create a story for the management, because management needs data, but they also need a lot of explanation and background. A data scientist can do that job, but I'm just comparing a typical profile of data scientist with a typical profile of CFO or financial controller or finance business partners. So it will all depends the storytelling capability of the function involved. And also very much, as I said, culture of the organization and the profile of the CFO is a very significant determining factor. Okay, one clear message we need to understand here, that in order to use Safari, drive Safari, you don't need to learn how the engine mechanism works in Safari, right? That's data science. Data science is very powerful, but most finance professionals are scared. Oh, how do I go to understand all this data processing? You don't need to learn how Safari engine works in order to drive it, but you need to understand how to drive Safari operating instructions. That's what we need to approach data science. So there is definitely a role of data scientist, which is much more technical oriented, but that is working together with finance and accounting, not really competing with data science, but working with data science. And I'm watching my clock, so I think I still have 7-8 minutes, right?
Saleem Sab, I think we have overrun time. If may I request you to, if you can conclude in the next 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you very
glad
much.
that I asked you.
Thank
I'm
you
going
very
to
much.
miss few slides here.
Sure, sure.
And so this is a key slide I want to show you. So as a finance professional, wherever you are a CFO or you are an accounting manager, these are the 4 dimensions of the skill you need to focus upon going forward. Your digital literacy, as I said, not really learning or becoming data scientist, but your digital literacy, and I've given you a few examples. Then your business domain expertise, not what you already know, but going literally deep into it, learn strategy, cognitive skills, critical thinking, problem solving, and social emotional, dealing with the people. So these are the 4 areas you need to develop and focus upon. And so it's not only learning typical way, the old way you have been learning, it's a very different world, and you need to develop yourself to learn and unlearn. And what I would advise you, there is not much good information available. That's also part of the confusion of the finance. I would personally advise each of you to start searching for the latest research from the big 4. Now they are very resourceful and they have very good research availabilities. Make it a habit to go their website and find out some latest research. That's one source which would keep refreshing your mind what is happening in the world and what you could do yourself. Number 2, also accounting bodies. So these IMA, CIMA, and AICPA, they're very resourceful. Now there are also good accounting bodies in Asia, but they may not be that much resourceful to carry out those research. So IMA, CIMA, AICPA, very good information, latest research available. Go there and learn. In addition to this, Gartner, McKinsey, Accenture, they also have a lot of research. They are the top consulting firm, but in finance function, they have a lot of research. And finally, I would suggest also make use of edX and Coursera. There are a lot of programs freely available, completely free. The whole formal programs are available free of cost. Keep doing that, spending some time on it, and you will find yourself quite updated and knowledgeable in those areas we talked about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Saleem Saab. That was really insightful and interesting. I think our attendees would be hating me because I stopped you from this very interesting presentation. I really liked it, and I really want to give a summary of it. But I think we really are constrained with time, and I would like to move on to our panelists to have to get their insights. Before doing that, let me also take this opportunity to let our attendees know that we will be starting in the Southern Regional Committee is starting from June 11th, another program on the strategic CFO, and this should be conducted by Mr. Saleem Sufi. This is a weekly program. It will be conducted for 6 weeks in a row on each Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pakistan time. So I encourage all of you to basically participate and attend these sessions. And you can very well imagine, the sort of insights that Mr. Salim Sufi has shared in this, less than an hour. You can just imagine what wealth of information and insights you can get in these sessions. So thank you very much once again, Mr. Salim Sufi, for sharing all these very, very interesting insights. Let me now go to the panelists and take their views as well. So coming over to you, Mustafa, first. It is said, one of the, because just also let me say one more thing here, that Mr. Salim was not just basically scaring the finance people. He also gave solutions, that what needs to be done, where do you need to go. And finance business partnering is one area of what he was mentioning about. And Mustafa, you being doing this finance business partnering for quite a long time at K Electric. So what do you see that in the newcomers, newcomers into the finance function? How do you see, do they, from the finance business partnering mindset, do they like it, or how they're taking it? And also, when you are inducting new finance people into the organization, what sort of qualities you think, as a finance person, we need to look into these? So over to you, Mustafa.
Assalamu alaikum, and very good evening to all the ICAP members and other finance professionals. And thank you very much, Mr. Saleem Sufi, for a wonderful presentation. And thank you, Mr. Usama, for introduction and asking this question. So, unfortunately, in our institutes and all over the world, the finance business partner as a subject, we don't actually teach that, and the student and the qualified professional is actually lacking on that particular subject, what we observe in the industry. So having the experience of 13 years in the finance business partnering role, we see that the trend is increasing. The awareness of finance business partnering concept is evolving, but unfortunately, because of the background of that particular topic, it's not being taught. So people actually learn it in the industry, and they usually take time, and at the same time it is also evolving, so people are struggling in that particular subject. So what I personally feel, that there is a high need, based on the presentation shared by Mr. Saleem Sufi and the changing dynamics in the corporate world, and especially specific to finance, that this concept needs to be further strengthened in the finance professional. Number one. Number two, the point you highlighted, what are the quality traits you looking for in newcomers. So now in finance, we at K Electric, just let me give you example very candidly, that we are three business partner for three different lines, right? And we are reporting to CFO. So एक बंदे के mindset से पूरा finance business partnering का mindset नहीं आ सकता. So you need to actually inculcate that mindset to in your entire teams. So by just like I am leading the team of 20 people, so I need to inculcate that mindset into my entire team as a collective unit. And there are certain other things which needs to be taken care of. Say for instance, the CFO is aligning the finance vision in line with the company's vision. So being finance leader, you need to allow to be made part of that, right? You cannot oblivious yourself that CFO जो है वो अपने align कर रहे हैं finance vision को उस company vision के साथ, and I have my own vision, I have my own style of working. So this is a real challenge and real trait which we are looking in newcomers, whether they are agile enough to deliver the desired results. Number one. Number two, CFO actually seeks help from finance leaders, and not only for the expertise of finance, but beyond that. It's about leadership. It's about complement their skills. It's also about the deliver the desired business result. So for me, as a finance leader at K Electric, a very large organization out of more than 200 finance people, we see excellent understanding of business. Number one, for newcomers in finance, which we are hiring. Number two, industry knowledge, number 3, challenges, and number 4, emerging trends and technologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mustafa, for a very comprehensive and brief response. Let me go to my second panelist, Mr. Ahsan Anis. And Ahsan, you are a qualified accountant, but you were working entirely in business for the last many years. So you are in a very good position to basically shed light on this and share your views from the business perspective, that how do you see this evolving, and what are your expectations from the finance function with respect to the changes that are taking place?
Thank you, Usama. Great presentation by Saleem Saab as well. I think जो आपने भी Usama एक कहा था कि I think Saleem Saab की presentation around 1 to 3 there is some rattling which is required in all of us, and I think one message which I also want to keep repeating is the fact that पिछले कोई 10 साल से how is the role of CFO changing पे सबसे ज़्यादा debates and सबसे ज़्यादा papers release किए गए हैं. I've never heard how a role of a sales head or how of a role of a operational head or role of a manufacturing head together. But I think there was some solutions or some data integration or some light at the end of the tunnel, which Saleem Saab also said. And I feel that there's also a need of those social skills and something which the finance profession needs to build in, instead of being in that small space where you could only work in finance. So one skill I think which is very, very critical, and which I think as we progress people are learning, is the empathy base. So a lot of new accountants coming in, or a lot of people who are just starting their career या अपने उसमें हैं, you'll be facing that dilemma that within the organization. I've been in leadership positions for in this organization as well as some others. So one of the dilemma which most of the finance people will face is the fact that वो value creators लगते नहीं हैं, और उनकी image इतनी positively outlook नहीं की जाती within the system. So there are two ways of, and I'm not saying that वो fear based में बता रहा हूँ, but there are two ways of handling that situation. One is the fact that obviously एक पूरा culture of empathy है, where you could understand the way the others are perceiving, others are thinking, and how if you could think that way कि वो इस perspective से कैसे आ रहा है. So one is the learning factor of empathy around. The second also is the fact that एक बहुत छोटा skill set में अपने आप को महदूद करने के बदले there is a lot of room where these analytical skills, these skills of being logical and critical thinking is required in other parts of other parts of the organization as well, where most people do not leap into because of the fear that they might not fit in. So जैसे the presentation said कि most of us fear that हमें Ferrari का engine नहीं आता तो चला नहीं सकते, तो most of us also fear that हम sales में इसलिए काम नहीं कर सकते, या हम operations में इसलिए काम नहीं कर सकते because we're not hardcore general managers, or we're not hardcore people like that. It also, those places also requires the same critical thinking, the same, as long as you can build up the emotional intelligence around it, as long as you can build empathy around it, you will be able to get through it. मैं सिर्फ आखिरी पॉइंट एक और तीसरा ये भी कह दूं कि this famous thing just जो हम सब बचपन से पढ़ते थे, the example was that rabbit and जो turtle की रेस में the turtle won because he was consecutive. I just think that जो volatile uncertain world के बारे में सलीम साहब भी जिक्र कर रहे थे, उसमें आज जो है I think the rabbit will still win the race, and एक आध दफ़ा कभी अपनी गलती से हार भी जाएगा, बट अगर वो 10 दफ़ा रेस लड़ेगा तो वो 9 दफ़ा टर्टल से जीत जाएगा. सो देयर इज समथिंग वो जो हम फाइनेंस प्रोफेशंस के अंदर जिसमें हम बहुत अच्छे हैं. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ जस्ट रियलाइजिंग ऑन द फैक्ट दैट जिसमें हम बहुत बुरे हैं उसको सीखते रहें या उसमें करते रहें, देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ स्टफ विच वी आर वेरी गुड एट, एंड आई थिंक उस पर बिल्ड करके you can also move into other areas of development. So I'm just highlighting a point here where there is a lot of fear that we might not be as good at social skills and as not good at all other functions, but there are certain things which you are very, very good at, and if you could build on that, it's very easy to transfer your knowledge into some other functions. So that's the 3 points I wanted to make there.
Great insights. Thank you very much, Ahsan. Let me come back to Mustafa for another question. And I think you touched upon this in the previous answer to the previous question. But if you can just, share some more insights that, in terms of what are the key traits that you think that an ideal finance business partner should have and a high performance finance team should have. If you can, give a bit more insights on this part.
थैंक यू सामा. अच्छा, फाइनेंस बिजनेस पार्टनर के कॉन्सेप्ट को बड़ा समझना जरूरी है कि इट्स अ लीडरशिप पोजीशन, because being finance business partner, as Saleem's presentations shown, that you are interacting with the line heads and CXOs at different level. So it's a leadership position, and you need all the leadership competencies out there. And I would actually, there are a lot of leadership competencies, but I would name a few. So one, first or foremost is the effective stakeholders management. It's a most important thing which we really miss. We don't actually manage stakeholders. We just let them go कि जो भी चल रहा है process चलता रहे. We haven't actually applied the science, the tools, and the philosophy behind it, and we don't learn how to actually manage the stakeholders effectively. So this is the one and top most important bit, being the ideal business partner from the finance perspective. The second is self awareness, emotional intelligence. Then build high performing teams. This is another important area. मतलब आप खुद बहुत अच्छे लीडर होगे being finance business partner, but based on my experience, if you don't build team, then that's actually a question mark about your ability. And people posting it, यार ठीक है आपसे तो काम निकल जाता है, आप बड़ा अच्छा डिलीवर करते हैं, रिस्पॉन्स करते हैं, बट आपकी टीम जो है उससे हम स्ट्रगल कर रहे होते हैं. So this is a really a question mark for all the finance business partner and the people who wanted to be a good finance business partner. How actually they build a high performing team as a business cohesive unit. एंड जब आपकी टीम से कोई बात करे तो वो आपकी टीम जो है वो एज अ कलेक्टिव रिफ्लेक्शन नजर आ रही हो कि यार ये डिलीवर करेंगे. The third, and it includes succession planning, motivation them, engaging them, and don't leave that part to HR. कि यार ये HR का काम है कि यार टीम को engage करें, HR का काम है feedback दे, HR का काम है. Don't do that. HR is no more responsible for that. It's our responsibility. So we have to take the ownership of that. Being good finance business partner. The third is the drive change in uncertain world, just like Luca, the drive change, drive results, right? And also lead a strategy and innovation. Another important area. So there are a lot of competencies, but I actually named 5-6 major competencies, and I would like to highlight a couple of important area in those competencies. One is the learning agility. And when we talk about learning agility, is something is what to do when you don't know what to do. It's an interesting phenomenon out there and very relevant in today's world. How about your mental agility? How good are you actually to take call in uncertain situations or based on your experience? And when we talk about learning agility, Osama, the openness, adaptability, questioning mind, observing, experimenting, networking, and associating. And actually we lack on those skills, and we don't want to learn. We want यार ठीक है 10-15 सालों में सीख जाऊंगा. It's not like that. You will not actually 10-15 सालों में सीखोगे. आपको you have to actually attend the courses. You have to actually see research. You have to actually invest your time and money even also for those capabilities. And as Mr. Saleem rightly said, we don't invest in ourselves. And the best way to invest in your anything is investment in your own self. Let me tell you very frankly. And the last thing which I will be highlighting upon is coaching and influencing. So you see, many of us know that influencing styles जो है एक या दो होते हैं. What are those styles? And it could be you say कि यार एक होता है logical, एक होता है rational, emotional. But no, there are 5 styles, and you need to learn those 5 styles by virtue of training, by virtue of research, and actually you have to practice those styles, and you have to influence your stakeholders based on the style applicable at the relevant time against the person needs, the situation, and then you will be a good finance business partner. Thank you.
Great, Mustafa. Thank you very much. One question from you, Ahsan, and then I will take few questions we have received from the attendees. And Mr. Saleem Sufi also mentioned about this, that the CEO or the business leader doesn't really care from where the information is coming. They is that information coming from a data scientist or from the finance person? What they are interested in is an information coming out of reliable data. So taking that thing into mind, into perspective, what do you think? There are a lot of talks about virtual CFOs, which is going on. So from a business perspective, what is your take on that?
नहीं बिल्कुल I think this is not just a buzzword here, but it might still not be called a virtual CFO here. But a lot of activities in finance will start consolidating. So let me give you example. Currently, अगर हम it might still be a listing regulations, and it's still a protection based system where you still need a CFO and you still need a company secretary in Pakistan. But अगर आप इसको थोड़ा सा अगर आप if you remove the barrier. Generally, हमें लगता है ये है कि if you have a good big conglomerate like say Arif Habib Group or big groups, Engro and people, they could still have a whole lot of finance function could be outsourced or kept in one single boundary where everything worked out together. You will still so वो वाला जो transactional, I think if you recall that pyramid wali slide in which because I just wanted to recall everyone around it, that's it. So the pyramid wali slide in which the transactional nature and the old structure of finance, a lot of stuff which was at the bottom of the pyramid could easily be consolidated if and you could still call it a virtual CFO or a virtual finance department because your taxation, regulatory, your bookkeeping, payroll running, I'm just to name a few where a lot of people start their career or probably finance professionals get into. So वो वाला पूरा काम जो है ना वो या तो virtual हो जाएगा या फिर बहुत सारी कंपनीज का कंसोलिडेट हो जाएगा as part of their productivity and efficiency improvement. बट अगर आप उस पिरामिड को मैं उन्हीं की प्रेजेंटेशन से ले रहा हूँ सो अगेन बट उस पिरामिड को आप उल्टा दूसरे वाले उसमें देखें सो वी विल स्टिल नीड अ लॉट ऑफ people who could suggest at how to create value. All CEOs, including myself and all business leaders would still require someone to give them the input to do, and those input can never come from a machine or someone sitting remotely unless he knows the business well. So as long as you have those business skills and learning of business, फिर उसकी ज़रूरत और उसकी इफादियत मतलब वो दोनों मौजूद रहेंगी. So that's my take on the virtual CFO thing. I actually also think that the fact that मुझे तो actually वैसे भी लगता है मतलब मैं थोड़ा सा इसको लाइटर मोड पे कहूँ मुझे वैसे भी लगता है कि इंसानों से वो काम कराना जो ट्रांजैक्शनल एक्टिविटी का ना वो वैसे भी जुल्म है सामा. मतलब मैं I'll be very honest, ये इस तरह का काम है कि आप हिरन पे सामान लाद के जा रहे होंगे तो लोग भी कहेंगे यार हिरन का काम कुछ और है उससे क्या सामान लदवा रहे हो. So I'll to tone it down the seriousness of the conversation, मुझे तो एक्चुअली लगता है कि बहुत सारा जो काम है वो इसलिए भी आउटसोर्स होना चाहिए कि वो इंसानों के करने के लिए नहीं है, वो एक्चुअली कंप्यूटर्स के करने के लिए ही बना था या वो किसी ऐसी चीज के लिए करने के लिए बना था कि वो जल्दी हो जाए. You don't want a actual human who can create the world to just do a bank reconciliation, to be very honest. The machine could do. So I'm just lightening the tone at the end of the seminar, but so that's my take.
Great, thank you very much, Ehsan. Saleem Saab, we have few questions from our attendees, and I'll put those forward to you. This question is coming from Mr. Syed Imtiaz Abbas Hussain. He is fellow member of ICAP, and first of all, he has praised your presentation. Then his question is that how entities, especially SMEs, who are not updated with time in terms of automation and professionalism, will survive, which are in majority in Pakistan.
Okay, इसमें leadership really matters, and I understand I'm from Pakistan, so okay, majority of the smaller to mid-sized organizations in there, that's the major issues. If leadership is not, so let me step back. I believe that all finance professionals generally are very intelligent, have a high potential. If they are not doing well, they are missing the right leadership. Leadership really matters at all levels, right? Think of this, that most of us pass the chartered accountancy or CPAs or other exams. This is not easy. This is not a piece of cake. It takes time. It takes effort. We pass through, generally speaking, we pass through those exams. So there is no doubt in your intellectual level. You only need the direction. And direction, if working from, so in a professional context, it also, you can say that because in the professional level, global level or country level, because there is not good leadership, so finance professionals are really not sure where they need to go. They are intelligent, they have the potential to develop and grow and learn, but they don't have the leadership. They are paying the cost for it, right? Similarly, if you take the same scenario in a context of an organization, and that organization does not have the right leader, someone has to pay the price. And price that if you pay is if you are part of that organization and there is not leader, there is not much you can do honestly. What you could do, you have to make your own assessment that whether it's a time to move on to somewhere else or you want to continue waste your time. But that's very common realistic scenario that you don't have the right leadership and someone has to pay the price for it. If you are in a position, change the leadership, bring the leadership. That's very crucial. If there are 50 people in the finance organization and you don't have the right CFO, all 50 people are paying the price for it. So my answer is that somehow leadership has to be fixed. That's the major issue in those cases.
Note, I think, yeah, that's very true, Saleem Saab. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is also from Mr. Syed Imtiaz Abbas Hussain. And his question is that data science helps finance persons about historical and current data. How data science can help finance while CFO work goes beyond horizon, like diversification of business, pulling out entity from crisis, etc. So he basically is saying that the role of CFO is getting more diversified towards more strategy and
Yeah.
all those things. And it's still we are pulling it back into data and all these things.
Yeah. So look, future finance organization is not entirely dependent on one person like CFO. In a future model of finance organization, it would be a finance leadership team with different focuses. So there could be one chief accounting officer who could be part of the finance leadership team and only focus on the repetitive process accounting activities. That's a very important part, although computers will take care of it, but someone has to take the responsibility of the integrity and quality of that data. Similarly, it is very common in today's organization that there are finance business partners or business unit controllers or finance people who focus on their business units, right? So even in a case where CFO is very much focused on diversified activities, I think one of the quality of the leadership should be to really trust the organization, develop the people to right level, because if one person in a large context of organization cannot really do justice. So they have to develop leaders at the finance director level, GM finance, VP finance, whatever you call it, and that should be dispersed. So it should be a very diversified organization, not only the CFO.
Right. So, Mr. Saleem Sufi, Mr. Ahsan Anis, Mr. Mustafa Kamal, these were like very amazing insights. And this time, I think, was very short for us to cover this very important and exciting and futuristic topic. But we are bound by this time, and we have to close our webinar now. So, let me just basically share the summary what I understood, what Mr. Saleem Sufi gave in his presentation. That was really insightful, and I will just repeat for our attendees some of the very important insights. Like Mr. Saleem talked about developing analytical and cognitive skills. That was very important. Moving the finance from back end to front end. This is also a change of mindset, and that as the finance people need to do, because this is going to happen when whoever is not willing to change will not be able to create value, as other our worthy panelists also talked about. Then there was also emphasis on the role of finance business partnering, that this role will emerge more and more in future. This is already there, but this function is strengthened going forward. um, because finance needs to be much more closer to the business, and this is getting more and more important going forward. Then this transaction processing will go away, and more insights and actions will be more required from the finance people. um, Another very interesting thing, that finance people are usually very good at descriptive and diagnostic things, and I think this is what we have been trained as well. We are coming from audit firms, we are very good at diagnostics, but what we really need to now focus on is predictive and prescriptive. And prescriptive is really very important. I think really that was really very good insight. And also, this was what I was mentioning earlier on, that Mr. Saleem Sufi's presentation has direction in it for the finance people as well, like because data analytics is something which is really important in the future. And what Mr. Saleem suggested was to integrate this data analytics function into finance, and this is how the finance function can be strengthened. And this is what the pyramid that was presented and was also explained by Ahsan in his comments. So these were like very good insights, and I would once again would like to thank my speaker and panelists Mustafa and Ahsan for these interesting discussions. And thank you very much all the participants and attendees for attending this webinar. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sama.
Thank you.